Donald Trump and the Senate are fighting, and he's just losing. And he thinks it's because they're rhinos or they're radical leftists. And it's funny because obviously that's not true. But these people have such few morals that they actually do want to help Donald Trump. With the confirmation of Todd Blanche, which is falling apart right now, Tom Tillis and John Cornyn are begging to confirm them. All they want is for him to drop the weaponization fund. Donald Trump can't do it, and so the war rages on. Senate Republicans want to do Donald Trump's bidding, but the bidding he's asking them to do, the Save America Act, they've said no repeatedly. So the fight rages on, and we are going to cover the latest updates, which begins with Senator Kennedy, a Republican that is, commenting on the reflecting pool. He didn't seem too enthused.
About another big topic this week, Senator. The Justice Department just this week dropped its charges against the Olympic canoeist that it accused of vandalizing the reflecting pool on the National Mall. The DOJ admitted that the damage was caused by, quote, botched installation and not vandalism. This was a case that the DOJ had said was open and shut. They said they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Does this reversal undercut the public's faith in the Justice Department, Senator?
Well, the whole thing is a multiple vehicle pileup. Let me start with the president. The president says it was caused by vandals. I don't know whether he really believes that or it's part of his political messaging or he's just thinking out loud. You and I both know the president well. He exists loudly and he grows anxious when he has an unexpressed thought. I'm not saying he doesn't really believe it. I just don't know. Now, the stakes are a lot higher for U.S. Attorney Pirro. You can't lie to a federal judge. If she can't prove her case, she was right to pull back. Because if you fool around with a federal judge, you will find out. When I was in private practice one time, I put my briefcase on a brand new conference table bought by a federal judge. And he got so mad, I'll never forget, I thought I was going to get to spend overnight with Bubba in central lockup. The federal judges will not tolerate it. And so if I don't know why she filed the suit without doing a full investigation. She says she relied on the Department of Interior, but she was smart to pull it back.
The bars really are low for MAGA, aren't they? Well, I really thought that, Ms. Pirro dropping the case, I thought that was smart. You thought it was smart? It was a good move? It was the only move. There was no case. I love that that's the bar for MAGA. Oh, you didn't continue on with your weaponization? You only kind of half weaponized? You arrested the guy. You kept him in a cell for 5 hours and then you let him go and you didn't charge him fully. So good job. It's just ridiculous. But then little critique there. See, little critique. Because these people know that what Donald Trump is doing is embarrassing. They know they have to shamelessly defend it. But there is some separation that MAGA is trying to create with Donald Trump, especially on the Save America Act, because they know it can't get done, or at least John Thune doesn't think it's going to get done. That's why he said this on Fox.
Getting rid of the filibuster non-starter, you don't have the votes?
Well, we don't. And I've actually I've had this conversation with the president many times, I think, as you know. And I actually suggested at one point that his team come up and sit down and visit with some of my colleagues. So they came up, met with about 20 Republican senators, and 15 were no on getting rid of the filibuster. The votes aren't there to do it. I know he thinks he can persuade people, but there are a lot of folks who are this is a hard position for a lot of Senate Republicans.
So, of course, we have seen Donald Trump attack Senate Republicans more broadly, but Thune specifically. Over the past couple of weeks and months, he's kind of checked him. Is he going to get the job done? Quite frankly, is he going to get the job done? Is he going to get it done for me? And Thune has consistently said no. And it's because he's pissed. It's because he's pissed he's lost Tillis. He's pissed he's lost Cornyn. He knows he's going to lose more Republican senators. It may only be 2 years of Senate control for him. So he's furious. And he's mad with Donald Trump. He's lashing out. So is everybody else. And we got some updates on all of it. Knifing each other. GOP goes haywire as Trump tantrums in Senate stalls. Public fighting between Donald Trump and Republican leaders are infuriating party members who say now isn't the time to throw tantrums. We need to be talking up the wins, talking about how crazy Democrats are, a GOP senator told CNN Sunday. Instead, we are knifing each other. Also funny to say that Democrats are crazy. I don't really know who you're talking about. Frustrations stem from the growing feud between Donald Trump and high-ranking Republicans over stalled MAGA initiatives they cannot or will not approve. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a Republican of South Dakota, has grown increasingly testy as he explains to reporters that, of course, he cannot wave a magic wand and create the votes needed to pass the Save America Act, a non-citizen voting ban that critics warn is both redundant and dystopian. Meanwhile, Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis have mounted a campaign to block acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's confirmation until they receive written proof that Donald Trump's controversial $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund is dead. Over the weekend, Donald Trump about-faced and vowed he'd push hard to pass it. Tillis responded with a vow to block Blanche's confirmation. Both men hurled insults. Senator Cornyn and Tillis are both upset because I wouldn't endorse them. They lost and quit, respectively, wrote Trump on Truth Social. Tillis called Trump's fund a payout pot for punks. Worse still, the sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham, LOL, denied Republicans a crucial diplomat able to communicate with both Thune and Trump. As tensions mount, Senator Jim Justice issued a dire warning to his party ahead of the midterms. If you don't watch out, he said, you're going to make things much worse, and we're going to lose seats. Yeah, I think you're going to lose. I think you're going to lose a couple of seats, and it'll be more than a couple of seats, with Democrats who are actually focused on taking on the establishment. What people hate right now is the obvious corruption and self-dealing of Washington. The fact that all of this shit is so coin-operated, that literally Donald Trump is demanding $1.8 billion to engage with his own party. It is the rampant corruption that we see in politics, and people are pissed. But with Democrats who are willing to challenge that and challenge the Congress, we will win huge. There is nothing more unpopular than Congress right now. Running against the establishment is exactly what needs to be done. And you see those who are doing so winning. I think the current leader of the Democratic Party right now, at least on the Hill, is certainly Bernie Sanders. You'd probably say across the country it's Mayor Mamdani, because these are people who have taken on the establishment. They've won. They've shown what it means to lead a fight against corruption, against the billionaire class, against the Epstein class. They have values that allow them to express their worldview without tripping over words or needing consultant talking points. They can go out there and be real people. That is what Democrats need right now. That is the winning formula. It is not some consultant slop, some corporate slop, some better things aren't possible slop. We need to inspire people that better things are possible. We've seen them in New York City. And again, partly because of Bernie Sanders and his leadership, and of course, Mayor Zohran Mamdani. But that is why Bernie is calling out not just the out-of-touch Republican leadership, but the out-of-touch Dem leadership too.
So people all over America are looking around and saying, hey, wait a minute. The very richest people are becoming richer. Elon Musk himself, one man, owns more wealth by far than the bottom half of American households. What in God's name is going on? And people look at the Republican leadership and Donald Trump and they say, you know, this guy's worried about a reflecting pool. I can't afford my retirement. He's starting a war in Iran, costing us huge amounts of money, killing innocent people. 18 American servicemen are dead. What are they doing? And then you look at the Democratic Party leadership, which also gets their money, like the Republicans, from very wealthy people. And people are saying, is the Democratic leadership representing ordinary Americans? And I think as people look at the Republicans, they say, no, they're out of touch. Look at the Democratic leadership, say, no, they're out of touch. We need a government, a radical idea that works for all people and not just for wealthy campaign contributors. That's why from New York City with Mamdani and in Colorado and in California and in Montana, I think you're going to see it in Michigan, people are saying enough is enough. You know, let's get a government that represents all of us. And I got to tell you something, Kristen, that part of the exasperation that the American people are feeling, it's not just an economy which is rigged. They're looking at a corrupt, underlying corrupt campaign finance system. And what you're seeing in Michigan right now is AIPAC, other billionaire-funded super PACs putting tens and tens of millions of dollars against Abdul El-Sayed in Minnesota, against Peggy Flanagan, same thing. So you got billionaires buying elections, government working for the billionaires, and ordinary people saying, we want change. And that is why progressives, democratic socialists are doing so well all over this country. They got an agenda that speaks to the needs of working families. They're prepared to stand up to the oligarchs.
We obviously need a revolution in the Democratic Party, to say the least. We need people who are not just going to say that they're going to fight but actually have a concrete plan to do so. Because if you are unwilling to take on the corporate interest and the foreign influence that controls so much of our politics, I do not trust you to take on Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was born out of those interests having too much control of our politics. We need people who are going to articulate what they are going to do. You'll hear a lot of Democrats say a thing that they don't believe, which is that they want to overturn Citizens United. Now, they may say that they want that, but there's one way to get it, and that's Supreme Court reform. That's expanding, that's packing, that's impeaching. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not actually willing to do anything to get shit done and change this country. Because going after the corruption is issue number one. There should be no Democrat in this country taking the same money that Donald Trump and Republicans get. It is corrupting by nature. Of course, a lot of that money comes from the Israel lobby, which is what Bernie Sanders called out here.
If you're a Republican, maybe we should be investing our money into Michigan, into Vermont, into America, rather than giving the extremist government of Netanyahu in Israel tens of billions of dollars to continue their atrocities against the Palestinian people.
You take me to my next question.
I think if you're a working class, Republican in Michigan, I think you're going to listen to what El Sayed says. And I think many of them will end up voting for him. Independents as well, of course.
Okay, and I want to follow up on what you just said. Dr. Al Sayed has made Israel a central issue in his primary. He said he, quote, often struggles with the question of whether Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. In the past, Senator, you have been quite clear that you do support Israel as a Jewish state. Should Dr. Al Sayed speak with the same clarity?
Look, I think right now the immediate issue of the moment is whether or not we continue to put tens of billions of dollars into the extremist Netanyahu government, which has killed 75,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, wounded 150,000, destroyed their infrastructure. And what the American people are saying, overwhelmingly Democrats, many independents, the majority of them, and many Republicans, especially younger Republicans, we got better things to do with our money than to continue to fund the military of Israel.
All right.
There are a few issues, I should say, that are more cross-partisan